So, Eli, I'm going to start with you. It seems like just a few days before an election in Detroit, there should be a lot more buzz about what's going on. I mean, this is a city that loves politics, loves elections, and it seems awful quiet. Tell me why you think that's true this cycle.
Yeah, it's a little strange considering that the last city election that we had was the presidential election in November, which obviously saw a lot of buzz, a lot of international attention regarding a lot of the protest action that was happening. I think this time around, we're dealing with a citywide election. We're not getting those statewide national candidates out there. And frankly, I think there's a little bit of exhaustion maybe from the last time that we did this exercise. So I think we're not necessarily seeing as much of a robust response as we have in the past.
Yeah, well, let's get to it and just kind of go down the list here. We'll start at the top with the mayor's race. Mayor Mike Duggan wants a third term, something I wasn't sure he would want, but he did say a while back that he was going to do that. We've got a lot of people who would also like to be mayor. And I think the two who stand out to me are Tom Barrow, who's run a number of times before, and Anthony Adams, who was deputy mayor for some time. Mario, assess this race for us.
Well, I'm glad you brought that one up first, but let me just add on to what Eli said. I think COVID has a lot to do with why this election has not been as enthusiastic as previous elections. The candidates just have not been able to campaign the same way they had been in the past. You know, door to door was just a just was not even an equation. So a lot of new ways of campaigning, and I think that has to do with the enthusiasm, the lack of enthusiasm among the voters. Now, the mayor's race, right now it's Duggan's to lose. I mean, we know this is a primary, it's going to have a general election, but this is going to be a close race for second place. Right now, neither candidate in either Mr. Barrow or Mr. Adams seems to be over this 10% mark. So the fight is going to be between those two. You'll see them battling it out. But Mr. Duggan is looking at about a 72, 73% approval rate. He handled COVID right. The city seems to be on a rebound, doing well. And again, because of COVID, the competition has not been able to successfully campaign or even draw the interest of the voters to get involved in this race. And might I add, the fundraising has been dismal for most of the non-incumbents.
Yeah. So Mario, you worked a long time in politics in the city. Would you ever have thought that you would be saying in 2021 that a white incumbent mayor in Detroit would have that kind of advantage over two African Americans who are really familiar to Detroiters? These are not newcomers. These are people who've been around, and Anthony Adams was the deputy mayor. Talk about the racial dynamic in Detroit right now as it pertains to politics.
Stephen and Eli, times have changed a great deal. And I guess you're right. If I look back 10 years ago, I probably would not have said this or even thought it. But the voters have gotten more sophisticated. They're not concerned about the color of one's skin. They're concerned about the quality of life and who can get the job done. We saw that when Mr. Duggan ran against the late Benny Napoleon. I mean, as a write-in candidate, it was unheard of for this man to win the primary election, to get into the general. So I think the voters have gotten a lot more concerned about the quality of life, what they want out of it. Race is always going to be an equation. I do believe whoever runs against Duggan in the general election is going to get about 27%, 28%, 30%. That's the norm. That's the anti-incumbent vote.
Eli, what have you heard and seen with regard to the mayor's race so far?
Yeah, I think a lot of residents are concerned about, I think what Mr. Morrow was pointing out, quality of life. I mean, we are coming out of the pandemic, and that really shook this city. And I think people really want to see the continuation of city services as they understand it, but also see the addressing of kind of these lingering concerns that have been really a persistent problem here in the city of Detroit. And we've heard issues about water shutoffs. We've had issues about overassessments on property taxes. These are consistent political issues that the grassroots is consistently bringing up to that to the forefront. And I do think that it has been a certain addressing of those issues by figures like Mayor Mike Duggan, who did announce a moratorium and seeking federal assistance in seeking to put a permanent end to the water shutoffs. And then we're also seeing a lot of other kind of concurrent efforts, issues like Proposal P, where people are trying to make these political issues kind of put it in the hands of the voter, so to speak.
Yeah. So Eli, you brought up Proposal P. We should talk about that as well. This is the charter revision. It would be a pretty significant change to our charter. It would sow some pretty significant issues into the founding and guiding document of the city, rather than leaving them to legislative or executive action. I've seen a lot of advertising against Proposal P. I've seen less for it. Eli, assess what's going to happen on election day with this. Is this going to pass?
Yeah, I think from the numbers I've seen on the current polling, I believe that the no vote on Proposal P is ahead. But I've also seen figures that show that those that are on the fence, the undecided voters, are about 25%. So this could really tilt either way. And I think it is going to really come down to the campaigning that goes behind it on either side. Like you said, we've seen a lot of advertisements on against Proposal P. I'm sure it doesn't take much to drive around the city and see those Proposal P is problematic billboards. And I definitely would be curious to know, the funding behind that effort. A lot of those campaign finance things are a little obfuscated, given how some of these corporations have set up. And I think that is something that I'm currently looking at and trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Let me help you with that.
In Michigan, we don't find out too much in advance of elections how those things have been paid for. It's one of the problems. Hey, Mario, you have been working on one of the campaigns against Proposal P, but give us a sense of where you think the overall issue is with Detroiters. Are they going to vote for this on August 3rd?
Well, I certainly hope not. It's really an illegal ballot initiative. The governor was against it, saying that this thing wouldn't fly constitutionally. The attorney general said it's illegal. The governor came back with recommendations and asked the charter commission to make those changes. They said they would make it. They made some adjustments, but they went back to the initial ballot proposal that they said, and they put it on the ballot. Let me tell you, there are a lot of people in this city who are very concerned about this initiative, this proposal, because it's going to put the city back into a situation where it's going to be bankrupt. It's just no question. There are new positions, the money funding source is not there, the expenses versus the revenue coming in. It's just ridiculous. I am anti-Proposal P, and it's no secret. And I have worked with a lot of people. You asked about funding sources. There are people who are supporting this thing from the highest levels of our community to the lowest levels of our community. The retirees, pensioners, it's going to affect them. So I hope that it fails. I hope that it fails overwhelmingly. I just think that this charter commission was just, it was a joke. It was embarrassing.
So Eli, talk a little about the interest groups who are for Proposal P. Of course, the charter commissions themselves would like to see it passed. But who are the other people who seem to be embracing this idea?
Yeah, the Detroit People's Platform, a coalition of grassroots activists, those voices that, bring themselves to city council to advocate for certain changes. Those are really the people that we're seeing at the forefront of this issue. We're also seeing Council Member Raquel Castaneda Lopez, who has been strongly advocating for Proposal P. She's not seeking re-election this term, so I think this is one of her efforts that she's really getting a handle on before she departs office. And yeah, I think generally we're seeing a lot of strength among that grassroots progressive progressively minded people. Again, this charter does have provisions on setting up a reparations committee, setting up water bill assistance, setting up reduced fare for public transit. And those are really appealing items, I think, for a lot of residents. And the question is, how do we convince, or how does the conversation continue to push people in that direction, given that there are these financial constraints and a really fairly robust expansion of the responsibilities of city government?
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to get to city council. 9 seats are open, as they always are. 4 of them are empty this time, which surprised me a little bit. I didn't think we'd have so many folks who just didn't want to run again. How much change other than those 4 seats might we see on the council, Mario? And we should also disclose that you've contributed in District 4 and in District 7 for candidates in this race. But give us an assessment here.
Yeah, without, I just think that there's going to be great change. You mentioned the open seats. So you're going to see new blood, you're going to see a new council, which means that there's going to be a learning curve, if you will, for those new members. Now, some who are running have had legislative experience again up before, like Coleman Young II and others. I just think that it's always breathtaking a little bit and just exciting to some extent to have new members in leadership in Detroit City Council government. There's going to be change. The most important thing here, and I think Eli will agree with me, is the incumbents who return to office and the power base that they have. They will have so much control because they have that institutional knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. Eli, what's your take on council and especially on these former legislative reps who are coming back home, I guess, to say that they want to be in local government?
Yeah, I think city council has has been a very controversial kind of position to hold. I mean, recently we have been seeing pretty high scaled departures. Earlier this year, we had former council member Gabe Leland pleading guilty to state charges of misconduct in office, then resigning. As we're speaking right now, a council member, Andre Spivey, is facing federal charges of federal bribery charges, allegedly having taken $35,000 between 2016 and 2020. So it has been this stain of misconduct and of corruption that is currently happening. So I think the people who are really seeking out this office really need to prove to the voters and to the residents of Detroit that the office is safe in their hands and that they won't abuse those privileges.
Yeah. Quickly, I'd love to get to the city clerk's race. Last time we saw a real barn burner between Garland Gilchrist, who's now lieutenant governor, and Janice Winfrey, who's been our clerk for a long time. She's a tough out, I would say. And Denzel McCampbell says he's the person to replace her. What's going to happen in this race? Janice Winfrey seems to me to have been one of the more unbeatable politicians locally. Mario, is this her time, or is she gonna have to step aside?
I think that she'll get through the primary, and depending on who's going to run against her, whether that's Michael Richard or Denzel or Beverly Kendall Walker, that's going to be the tell of all. There was a close race between Garland Gilchrist and Janice Winfrey. There's been a lot of controversy. She has name recognition, and whoever out of these 3 that are challenging her for the seat comes out of the primary, and hopefully they're not beat up too bad, they'll be able to, give her a run for her money. It's going to be that's going to be one of the most interesting races to watch, to see if she can pull it through.
Sure. And to add on to that, if Clerk Winfrey was to be reelected, she would be among the longest serving elected officials in city. This would be her 5th term in office.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. All right, Eli Newman, Mario Morrow, just a few days before election, but thanks for joining us on American Black Journal.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephen.